Hi Fox, how are you doing? The Russian Team Chess Championship is being played these days in the city of Sochi, and we have lots of very strong and interesting players playing there. We have lots of players from the candidates tournament, Karyakin, Svidler. We have other 2700 plus GMs like Morozevich, Grishuk, and well, certainly a big bunch of very strong GMs like I don't know Inerkiev, Dominguez, Bologan, lots of strong players playing there, and well, uh, definitely an interesting event to follow. The first game I analyzed from this tournament was played, I think, in the second round. We have Lanier Dominguez from Cuba as white, and Alexei Dreev, a veteran, strong Russian player with black pieces. Let us see what happened. E4, C6, we have the Caro Kann defense. D4, D5, and we're going into the advanced variation with bishop F5, knight F3, E6, bishop E2, and knight E7, one of many plans available here for black, and which its idea is to play after white castles, to play bishop G6, and to put the knight on F5. Very solid plan. Knight BD2 was played here. All this is very theoretical. Knight F5. Well, this position is for sure very well known for Dreev, for instance, who plays Caro Kann quite a lot, and at least in my database he's played this exact position as with black pieces at least 5 times, so not bad. He sure knows what he's doing. Here Dominguez played knight to b3. Well, I was thinking instead of why not maybe c4, try to create some central pawns tension here, and certainly the computer says, well, it's more or less possible, not a bad move, so I'm happy that my suggestion is not a blunder. I don't know if knight d7, I was thinking maybe rook e1 with the idea to put the bishop on f1, and now after bishop e7 also queen b3 is another possible move. I mean, nothing really great white has achieved, but well, still you have played c4, which always is like trying to do something in the center. But okay, knight b3, very solid move, nothing wrong with it, of course. Here knight d7, c3, a6, quite a slow game so far, very quiet, positional. Bishop f4, developing pieces, bishop e7, and now g4. Dominguez forces the exchange of the knights on the h4 square, takes, takes, and now he exchanges this bishop as well, bishop g3, takes, takes. Well, an interesting position. Now white has some spoiled pawn structure on the king side, but this could be beneficial for him, as we will see f4, f5 was going to be an interesting idea for him. Now queen goes to b6, reasonable. c5 is a move you always want to play in these Caro Kann or semi-Slav structures to counterattack white center. Now f4, obviously the idea is to trap the bishop if black just carelessly just castles. Now f5, e takes, g takes, and the bishop is trapped. So of course a GM doesn't need to think about these moves, he plays the only move. Here bishop e4, and now a4. Interesting idea by Lanier. He's going to just chase this queen away from the b6 square and going to have some space on the queen side. c5, a move you typically need to do in these positions. a5, the queen goes to c7, and now interesting relocation of the knight. It goes back to d2, and the point is that, well, as we just saw, the bishop just cannot go back because it's going to be trapped once again. The point is that whenever white takes the bishop, pawn takes, this black pawn on e4 is going to be quite weak, so there are good chances that white will be able to win this pawn. So that's what white's edge is in this position, more or less. I think it's already, well, it's critical here to play more or less correct, and it seems that Dreev doesn't find the best move. Let us see what he played. He played rook d8, and now we will see Dominguez exploiting what seems to be a mistake here. What was the move suggested here to be better? It was to be play b5, so that after a takes, knight takes. Still, white is going to take on e4, d takes. Now rook e1, white is trying to relocate his bishop, f1, g2, and win this pawn. Black castles, bishop f1, c takes, queen takes, keeping these pawns here on c3, on b2. And after rook fd8, white takes the pawn with the queen. Black could try to create something with this pawn on a file, a5, rook ed1, a4, bishop g2 probably, and well, white grabs the pawn. He's up a pawn and has some decent chances of winning this endgame, or still middle game. But well, probably this is much better for black than the line we're going just going to see what was played in the game. As we saw, after knight d2, rook d8 was played here, and let us see how Dominguez plays. He just takes on e4 first, and then a key move, central penetration with the pawn d5. Very interesting, because it's not easy to play here with black. Already this pawn has gone quite so far. Well, let us see what alternatives, what moves that black had here, what reasonable moves. First of all, you will probably have to look at e takes d5. The point is that after queen takes, the white queen is really very well placed on the middle of the square, and is most probably going to take the black pawn on e4. And a very important point is that the black knight is quite a bad piece here. It can't go to b6, c5, e5, or f6. So b8 will be more or less the only square he can go back to be relocated through c6, and this gives white quite an edge. Let us see some possible continuations, and as we will see here, if black isn't really accurate, the game could finish really fast. So this is not trivial at all for black. So let's say he castles, white takes the pawn. Now knight b8 could be logical to relocate the knight. Rook a d1, say these rooks are exchanged, rook takes, and for instance say black goes ahead taking this pawn. Of course this may not be the best move, just to illustrate some possibilities. Now white has a very interesting e6 move, and after f takes e6, bishop d3. White is just threatening checkmate here. Well, a check, then light squares will be absolutely horribly damaged on the king side. Not a checkmate right away, but very nasty check there. And if black, for instance, tries to stop it with g6, now this is leading to forced checkmate, just to illustrate how dangerous the position could be, the opening of the position for black. Now white takes, checks once again with the queen, and after the king goes back to the light squares, the bishop gives another check, and in a couple of moves this will be a checkmate. So black position really seemed solid maybe 10 moves before, but a sudden opening of the center and quite active white pieces were decisive in this line, as you saw. Well, what to do after d5? Another possibility, maybe to castle, but now the pawn advances, and we have a very strong protected passed pawn already on the 6th rank, which is quite an achievement, a huge advantage here for white. So what did Dreev play here? He played knight takes e5. Here, instead of taking a piece, Dominguez played queen a4 check, and even if black goes away with the pawn, goes back with the knight to d7, he takes on e6 first, f takes e6, and now he takes the pawn on e4. And the point is, well, that pawn on e6 is going to fall, and white is going to have lots of pressure through the light squares. His bishop is going to be much better than the knight, and black king is going to be weak. Well, black castles, Dominguez takes with check, king h8, now bishop f3. Leiner is finally up a pawn, and well, the position is probably not lost yet, but really uncomfortable for black to play, as white is really more or less in control. So Dreev here plays for some drastic measures, really seeking counterplay desperately. He plays g5, uh, probably with the idea of going in into the white castle with his queen. The rook may be something, may do some job here, but the obvious drawback, I think, is that this weakens black king quite a lot. So here a very beautiful move, probably one of the most beautiful moves in this game, at least in my opinion. A little move with the queen e7. Well, it may not seem that much, but the point is that white is pinning this knight so that it cannot be moved without dropping the queen, which is hanging here on c7. And his idea is simply to put the bishop on e4, and the checkmate on h7 wouldn't be possible to stop. So very simple idea and very beautiful one. That's why, well, to avoid that, rook g8 is played here by Dreev. So if bishop e4 is played, g7 blocking the check, and attacking the queen, and everything is protected so far for black. Well, instead rook ad1 is what Dominguez played. Now g takes, and Dreev decides to sacrifice his knight here, looking for desperately for counterplay with his queen. He takes with the queen on f4. Objectively speaking, this isn't the best move, of course. It is suggested to play rook g7, attack the queen, and get into this endgame after queen d6, exchange the queens, and a couple of moves later, bishop takes b7, g5, the light pieces will be exchanged, rook takes b2, rook takes a6, check, king h1, rook c2, attacking there, rook f3, and well, of course, white is much better in this endgame. He's up 2 pawns, but the 2 of his pawns are doubled on the f-file, and his white king, is quite vulnerable here, and black rooks are really have really aggressive positions here. So black may have really some practical chances here of drawing. Of course, well, this seems subjectively speaking much better than what Dreev played, but okay, on the board you don't have you never have an engine to say which is the best move, of course. So queen takes f4. Lanier took the knight on d7, by the way, threatening checkmate. And well, what to play here for black? He took on g4 with check. Giving a check, for instance, on g3 with the queen is giving black nothing, because after bishop g2 there are no more checks. The game basically is over. White is up a piece for nothing. So rook takes g4 check. Here Lanier played king f2, much more human than what the engine says. Each is much easier for white to win. Bishop takes, queen takes, and king h2. Now the white king is going to have a little trip through the dark squares to the safety. Queen h5 check, king g3, queen g6 check, king f2, and funny enough, if black queen delivers another check on c2, now after king e3, white is threatening checkmate on f8. Black still must be guarding h7, and well, this is really a tough position because black doesn't have any more checks against white king. Funny enough, in the middle of the center, white king is safe from checks. So well, the rook is under attack on d8. This is basically over for black. But okay, king f2 maybe must be safe enough. White right now is threatening the rook on d8, threatening checkmate. So black takes on d7, queen takes, and now rook g7, queen e8 check, rook g8, and queen e4. No need to say, I guess, that any piece exchange here would lead to black resignation, basically. So queen d2 check. Dreev tries to keep the pieces on the board and keep checking. Queen f4, rook g1, rook d8. Now the subtle idea is to trap white queen with rook d2, queen e7, attacking the rook, attacking the g7 square. So queen d2 check, queen e2, and we're back into the same position. And it's now where when Dominguez finds the bishop g4, rook g4 move, and after queen h4, queen h2 check, king e1, the queen goes to d6. Now a beautiful move, another little move, but very nice one. He's threatening just to go with the rook to d5 and force the exchange of rooks. Rook f8, but now after bishop d5, Dreev had enough. After 41 moves, he resigned the game, and basically white king has reached more or less a safe place. And there are always checkmate threats against black king, which is extremely weak, and really black doesn't have enough compensation for the piece in no way. So Dreev had enough. By the way, here must be careful. White cannot just go for the queen exchange without thinking with queen a5 check, because if queen takes, rook takes, he would be dropping his piece, and now he's a pawn down, in fact, and must be careful not to lose this endgame, which anyway should be drawish. But there it goes, an interesting battle between very strong GMs in the Russian Team Championship, and Dominguez, by the way, who is right now, according to live ratings, in the top 10 of the world, getting there thanks to his victories in this Russian Team Championship. So good tournament for the Cuban player so far. Hope to see more interesting games from the GMs here, and thanks for watching.